There's always a headline about Assistant Attorney General leaves DOJ, and it sounds, like it's a political statement rather than, or a lack of confidence statement, or doesn't like the way the direction that the department is going. And I know you see this, the public reports. Isn't this the way it's always been at DOJ? People moving in and out, and you yourself were at DOJ at one point before you went into private practice. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about at the upper echelons of your leadership team, where you see this going, and is it a political statement, or is it the cost of doing business and
Look,
ebb and flow of workforce?
I think we have a great team, and not only at DOJ, but President Trump's entire administration. That necessarily means that sometimes people come in and sometimes people leave. I was a federal prosecutor until I had no money left, and I had to go to the private sector. And I think there's pressures on family, and it's not a political statement. I think the president has assembled a phenomenal cabinet, and the cabinet has then assembled leadership that I think is every day working hard to fulfill the president's agenda, and when it comes to DOJ, to make America safe again. And so my team that works at DOJ, some of them will stay for 4 years, and some of them will probably leave in the next month or two, and that's natural, and all we can do is thank them for their public service and to keep on hiring great people.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Capito, we're going to conclude this hearing in just a moment. Senator Van Hollen and I have the practice of wrapping up our thoughts with questions or statements, and then we'll conclude. I'm in a particular hurry to get to the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee to ask questions there. So if I quit explaining what we're going to do, I'll get there sooner. And I now recognize Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blanche, in response to Senator Coons saying that Capitol Hill police officers were worried that people who assaulted them on January 6th might benefit from a slush fund, you said that couldn't be true because it hadn't been set up.
I didn't say it couldn't be true, Senator. I didn't say it couldn't be true. I said it was surprising it was true.
Okay. So it is very possible that people have been anticipating getting payments from the administration, people who were part of the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, right?
You're asking me to speculate on the possibility of something?
Have you not heard of anybody anticipating getting payments from that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, actually.
Mr.
But
Chairman,
I won't speculate.
I want to put it in the record, submit for the record, a January 2026 Washington Post story, a long story, entitled, "For Many January 6 Rioters, a Pardon from Trump Wasn't Enough." And it goes on to quote, the President of the United States, when asked about these payments, said, "A lot of people in government now talk about it because a lot of people in government really like that group of people," unquote, referring to the January 6 rioters. Are you not aware of that statement from the president?
I have never read the Washington Post.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that there are a lot of people
I accept
for
that you read
a
it.
long time who've been anticipating payments. You're not aware of that?
You're telling me there's a lot of people that were anticipating payments?
Yes.
No.
Well,
I'm not aware of
Okay.
that.
Well, Mr. Attorney General, you are in a bubble because the reality...
Because I don't read the Washington Post?
No,
Okay.
no. Obviously, you should be in touch with some of these folks because I asked you specifically about an individual who had molested kids and been convicted, about his anticipation of getting a payment. And you said that couldn't be true. In fact, that was a lie. I want to read you.
I didn't say that.
I got the transcript right.
Good.
You said it was obvious. I'm obviously lying the question because there's no way the person committed to that because the slush fund did not exist. That's what you said. I'm going to read from you, Mr. Attorney General, an affidavit from the Hernando County, Florida Sheriff's Office. And I want you to listen carefully to what this police officer said about this criminal named Andrew, pardoned by the president, now being charged for child molestation. He says, Andrew also told that since he was pardoned for storming the Capitol on January 6, 2021, and he was being awarded $10 million as a result of being a January 6er, Andrew did tell that he would be putting him in his will, referring to one of the victims of his molestation. He would be putting him in his will to take any money he had left over. This tactic was believed to be used to keep from exposing what Andrew had done to him, signed under penalty of perjury by someone in the sheriff's office. And you're telling me you don't know about all these people who have been signaled by the President of the United States and others that they're going to get payments.
I think that that's what you just read is disgusting. It's horrible that that happened, but that's not what I said.
What?
I mean, you can say you're telling me and then make up something that I'm not saying, or you can let me speak.
Mr. Attorney General,
Yes.
I'm reading from the statement here. I got a transcript of what our exchange earlier. And you essentially said, well, you're obviously lying in your question because there's no way this person committed to that because the slush fund of which you called it did not exist. Just as you suggested.
Right, and it's true that even the affidavit that you just read said that he would be awarded this criminal suggested he'd be awarded $10 million.
Now you're playing absolute word games.
I am not playing a word game.
Of course you are, because people
And also, words
anticipated
matter.
this payment.
Words matter. So if you're going to quote me accurately.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put in the record, January 6th rioter pardoned by Trump was sentenced to life in prison for child abuse. Pardoned Capitol Hill rioter tried to bribe child sex victim with promise of January 6th payout. And I will close with this, Mr. Attorney General. You can't tell us today that this individual would not be eligible for a payout from this fund. I find that obscene. And I'm going to ask you one last time. You keep comparing this case to the Keep Eagle case. In that case, as you've admitted, a judge ultimately signed off. I'm asking you, before you proceed with this fund, will you have a federal judge sign off on it?
I didn't compare the cases. What I said is the commission that we set up yesterday is nearly identical to the commission that was set up during Keep Eagle. So please, you repeatedly put words in my mouth, and then you say, "Oh, I'm playing wordsmith." Words matter,
Mr. General.
So if you,
they do matter. You said they were. I got. Look, the transcript will speak for itself.
It will.
But you.
What you just heard is the part of the hearing Van Hollen came to build one document at a time. He did not open with a speech. He opened with a transcript, his own transcript. The exchange from earlier in the same hearing where Blanche had responded to Senator Coons and the question of January 6 payments. Van Hollen read it back. He asked Blanche what he had said, and Blanche corrected him, not the substance, the word. He had not said it couldn't be true. He had said it was surprising it was true. That correction is where this exchange actually begins. Van Hollen took the correction and kept moving. He submitted a Washington Post story from January 2026 for the record. The headline, "For many January 6th rioters, a pardon from Trump wasn't enough." He read from it. He quoted the President of the United States on the record saying that a lot of people in government really like that group of people. He asked Blanche if he was aware of that statement. Blanche said he had never read the Washington Post. Van Hollen did not pause on it. He moved to the affidavit. The affidavit came from the Hernando County, Florida Sheriff's Office, signed under penalty of perjury. It described a man named Andrew, pardoned by the president for his role in the January 6th attack on the Capitol, who had since been charged with child molestation. The affidavit stated that Andrew had told his victim he was being awarded $10 million as a result of being a January 6th participant, that he would be putting the victim in his will, that this promise was used to keep the child from disclosing what had been done to him. Van Hollen read every word of it into the record. Then he asked Blanche whether he was telling the committee he did not know about people who had been signaled by the president that they would receive payments. Blanche said what he had just heard was disgusting. He said it was not what he had said earlier. He said Van Hollen was putting words in his mouth. Two things can be true at the same time. Blanche may be entirely correct that the words surprising and the phrase couldn't be true carry different legal and institutional weight, and that a witness who is going to be held to a transcript has every right to insist on being quoted accurately. He may also be correct that he had no prior knowledge of this specific affidavit, and that an acting attorney general cannot be expected to have read every document in every county sheriff's filing in the country. Both of those are reasonable positions. What Van Hollen was asking, however, was not about the precise word Blanche used. It was about awareness. The acting attorney general of the United States asked whether he was aware that people had been publicly signaled by the president himself that payments were coming, said he had never read the Washington Post. That answer is what this hearing leaves on the record. The most overlooked part of this exchange is what Van Hollen did with the final 60 seconds of his time. He did not press on the affidavit. He moved to a single structural question. He asked Blanche whether, before proceeding with this fund, he would submit it to a federal judge for approval. Blanche said there was no federal judge. Van Hollen said the case had been dismissed by a judge the previous night, meaning a federal judge was still presiding. Blanche said he did not move the case. Van Hollen asked about an independent authority. Blanche asked what that meant. Van Hollen said it meant someone other than the president's former personal attorney. Blanche said he was the acting attorney general, not the president's former personal attorney, and that Van Hollen should refer to him accordingly. Van Hollen's last sentence was not a question. He said Blanche was acting today like the president's personal attorney. He said that was the whole problem. He noted there was a banner of the president's face hanging over the Department of Justice. He said Blanche and everyone else walked under it. Then he said he had no further questions. The transcript now contains every document Van Hollen submitted. It contains Blanche's statement that he had never read the Washington Post. It contains the affidavit from Hernando County read into the record under penalty of perjury. It contains the silence where Blanche could have said, "I have not read that story," but if the president made that statement, it is relevant to how this fund is perceived, and chose not to. Those words travel with this hearing into every future question about who this fund is designed to serve. They travel into the $10 million figure an alleged child molester used to groom a victim. They travel into the question of independent oversight that Blanche could not answer with a yes. They travel into the banner hanging over the building where the Attorney General of the United States works. The acting Attorney General insisted on the distinction between his current title and his former role. That insistence is also in the record. So, was Van Hollen running genuine constitutional oversight over a fund with no judicial review and no independent authority, or was he using a sheriff's affidavit to stage the most damaging possible moment in a hearing that was already ending? Was Blanche defending the institutional boundaries of what an acting attorney general can and cannot commit to in a public proceeding, or was he refusing to say the one sentence a witness in his position should have been able to say? Two different stories. Same hearing, same official record. Tell me in the comments which version you walked away believing. If you stayed this long, subscribe. This story isn't finished.